Hey guys, welcome back to the Music Hole. My name is Cole, and today we're doing another entry in my Best Albums of All Time series. These are just albums that blew me away personally, and I'm just really excited to share them with you guys. So I hope you like them. And today I'm really excited because this is a recent entry by the band Parquet from Brooklyn, and this is their 2018 album called Wide Awake, or maybe it's Wide Awake. I don't know, because you see that. But anyway, this is a really funky, political, social commentary type album. The sound of it I would describe as funk punk. It's just a really cool, unique sound, and I really like it. However, I do want to talk about this album cover for a moment. For me, I love the album cover. It was one of those albums where I looked at the cover and I was like, please be a good album. I really want to own it on vinyl. But thankfully it's good. I really like it. But another comment on it that I want to make is that this album touches on, as I mentioned, politics and social commentary. And as you notice, you've got three people dancing in unison. You've got a black person and a white person maybe, but you don't see their heads. And this might be a stretch, but I'm going to interpret that as like, their thoughts are in unison. They have the same beliefs and goals or whatever. But the reason you don't see their heads is because maybe each of them has lost a little bit of their own personality, per se, a little bit of their own soul and their own, thought process or whatever. Because this album, again, is about social commentary. It's about wokeness. So these guys are joined in unison with their beliefs, but they've lost a little bit of their own personality and their own self. Anyway, that's just how I think about this album cover. I could be totally wrong, but I thought I'd share it. But anyway, so as always, I've got a bunch of clips lined up of my favorite parts, my favorite lyrics, and I'm just really excited to talk about them. So let's dive right in. Yeah, so that's Total Football, and oh my goodness, I love that energy. Just immediately you're thrust into the album. It's just explosive, and as I mentioned, towards the end of the clip, the kind of funky part of this band shows up with the bass line. It's just such a killer bass line, and there are many killer bass lines on this album. It's just a really unique, really fun album. I'm just really excited, honestly, that Parquet were able to make what I call their first masterpiece, as far as I'm concerned. In the past, they've had some good songs, Stoned and Starving and Borrowed Time being probably my favorite pre-Wide Awake songs. But this is, for the first time, thanks to their new producer, their first real gem of an album, in my opinion. So just a great beginning, but it only gets better. So from clip number 2, we're going to talk about some lyrics on this song. So let's check it out.
We are troubled by your soft curiosity, but delighted to be at everything you were taught. You put off by our foot, loose fluidity. Have you had Caucasian views that you so distraught?
so I just really love these lyrics. I mean, again, they're very woke, they're very political, but I like the way that he puts it, because basically he's picturing the woke people as delighting in showing the non-woke people just how wrong they are, and maybe on some level they feel above them. They feel above the non-woke people. And so these lyrics, they just make me think of, like, instead of trying to appeal to the inner human and the inner soul of these, racist, bigoted, LGBTQ people, instead of trying to appeal to their humanity, they're just kind of like looking down at them from up above, morally and ethically speaking, So I like what he's doing with these lyrics. He's basically saying, like, okay, you might be right, you woke people might be right, but, like, just be careful about how you approach this stuff, because you don't want to demonize the other people. You want to, like, come to a consensus, an understanding. You want to have a conversation. And from what I gather with these lyrics is that there's no real conversation going on. There's just like an us versus them thing. So I really like these lyrics. But that's all I have to say about this song. It's a really good beginning, just a great, great song. But with that said, let's talk about track number 2, called Violence.
To become lost in its darkness, and stinks like the piss test you were forced to take just before you were told you didn't meet the standards of integrity that this organization strives to maintain.
Man, that's just such a killer bass line. It's so funky. And these set of lyrics I like a lot. They're very poetic, they're very dense. But basically what he's talking about, as he says in the beginning, violence is the fruit of unreached understanding, which is so true. It's just the way it is in life is you've got a group of people who think about something in their own way, and then you've got another group of people who have a different way of living and thinking. And it seems like throughout history, instead of just coming to a mutual understanding, or instead of having a dialogue and figuring things out peacefully, it just becomes like this violent conflict. And, I like his message. He's basically trying to say, like, it can't possibly be the case that the only way to resolve this conflict is through violence. There must be a way to get these two different groups together in a peaceful manner. That's how I interpret it. But just another incredible song, just more funk punk, as I mentioned. Just a great song. But anyway, that's all I have to say about it. So with that said, let's move on.
State TV helps the public explain. Broadcast beamed into the dry terrain. Images of drenched survival, without hope but soaked with pain. Consequences of reality felt, all conditions of humanity built on the bridges, tent villages, waiting for the state to help. Glass barely bends before it cracks.
Again, just another wonderful poetic set of lyrics. And he's basically discussing reality in the sense that, like, again, this album is about woke politics, liberal politics, and liberalism is very communist-y in nature. So this song is basically talking about the reality of life is you're going to have some people who are doing fine, they're doing well, but you're always going to have, he says these tent villages. You're going to have the poor people, the homeless people who are struggling, who are without hope. For a variety of reasons. It could be mental problems. It could be any number of things. So again, the reality is, it's probably the case, as he says, that you're going to need the state to come in and just help a certain percentage of the population. We should strive to help those in need. We should have a system in place to be able to help those in need, those who can't help themselves, for whatever reason. So that's what I imagine this song is about. I could be wrong. It's called "Before the Water Gets Too High," I believe it is. Which implies that it's like a sneaking problem, and before the water reaches that point where it spills over the wall, like the wall of, how would I describe it? Before it just becomes too much of a problem, we need to sort it out right now. So anyway, just another great song, another funky song, lots of energy. But that's all I have to say about it. So with that said, let's move along.
Almost had to start a fight. Don't know how to react, so I won't. What do you do when you are provoked? Windows, something stop being a joke. Cut up in our modern lives. Adapt to the world, then if you must. Into this perverted status quo. What if I've grown tired of being polite? Why am I searching for a reason?
So I skipped to track number 5, which is called "Almost Had to Start a Fight," which really resonates with me because essentially what he's saying is, how far are you willing to let things go before you really need to step in and, start a fight? Before, as he says, you're tired of being polite, and you got to just do something about it. I've been in awkward positions where somebody says something not very nice, and in honesty, I probably should have spoken up about it. But me just being a really shy, polite person, but mostly anxious, it's just I really struggle when I'm put on the spot like that, and it is something about myself I need to improve. I admit, but just in general, it's a very important message. When is enough enough? Is basically what he's saying. So again, very political, great social commentary, and just another excellent song. But with that said, we're going to move on to track number 6, which is called "Freebird II," and it's just a really cool song. So let's check it out.
I've learned how not to miss the age of tenderness that I am so lucky to have seen once. And now that I've become older, I've learned how to brush over my history and how it's sequenced. When I think about you, I see a person who hasn't existed for a long time. Before you started using, before I started choosing to do the same thing for the same reasons.
So that's Freebird II, and I'll admit a little bit that I'm not entirely sure what's going on with this song, lyrically speaking. I do like Adam Savage's singing in this part, but if I had to guess, and let's just go for it, I'm assuming what he's talking about is he's, I guess, in contact with this person who's maybe a younger person who maybe hasn't had time to reflect on their life and reflect on, the way they were brought up. Because it sounds like Adam's character, maybe he had, maybe he was taught when he was growing up to think a certain way that isn't very good, isn't very moral, isn't very ethical. But as he says, now that he's older, he's had time to think about it, and he's had time to realize that his former way of thinking was not very right, that there was a problem with it. So he's kind of figured out for himself that he needed to change his thought process, so to speak. But he sees this new guy, this younger person, who apparently probably has like hate in their heart, for something. We don't know what. But he just sees this young person who, I'm assuming he wants to help them. He wants them to have some introspection and hopefully change their hateful thoughts and opinions. So again, I could be wrong. It might not be about that, but it made me think of that. And I like it if you think about it in that way. But it's another really good song. Again, just this album is just like nonstop political commentary, social commentary, which is fine. But anyway, that's really all I have to say about it. So with that said, let's move on to the next track.
Face with a decision. What do I call bullshit? A contemporary dilemma. Can I allow this? Normalisation. What am I thinking? Immunization. Power conditioning. Nothing is normal. Manipulating and believing. I'm exercising skepticism. Honesty is everything.
Yeah, so that's Normalisation, which these lyrics in particular might be the most important ones on the album. Because basically what he's saying is nothing is normal. Everything is taught. What you consider to be normal is like where you live, how you grew up, what your parents believed in, everything is relative, is essentially what he's saying. And I think it's very important for people to keep that in mind, Like, for example, I'm going to go on a little tangent. So, if you go to my website, Music Hole, you'll notice that, like, pretty much every album pick for me is a Western release. So by that I mean, like, I don't have any Middle Eastern albums. I don't have any classical albums. I don't have any, like, Japanese rock albums or whatever. And that's just simply because I haven't been exposed to them. And on some level, I don't even know where to find them, to be honest. So, like, as that pertains to this song, my normalization is like what I talk about on my channel and on my website is more or less based on just my own exposure, So there's all sorts of ways you can think about these lyrics. So it's a really good song. But that's all I have to say about it. So with that said, let's move right along.
Make making a decision about steamed or fried. Wanted to be needed, so I fed my cat. Think I'll keep to myself for the next few days. Feel the best that can be bottled, smoked or canned. Sabotaging life just to find something to write about. Why was it always this way? Did I do it on purpose?
So I skipped a few songs. I skipped Wide Awake, which is one of the singles off this album. And even though I like it, it's kind of not the most interesting song to me, if I'm being honest. But the songs I skipped, you know, they're good songs. I like them. But we're going to track 11 now. This was Extinction. And I like these lyrics because it talks about the modern first world dilemma where essentially, you know, for first world countries like the US, we basically live in relative luxury. I use relative very specifically. You know, not everyone is living, you know, above the poverty line, let's say. But in general, what I think he's getting at in this song is that we kind of create drama. Like our lives, for the most part, are pretty wonderful in general. I mean, you know, there are social problems, but like in general, we create a lot of drama, it seems like, as he says, just to have something to talk about. So like in some sense, I kind of agree with that. You know, again, as I said, there are still many issues that we're dealing with. There's like transgender issues, there's Black Lives Matter issues, and all sorts of stuff. But in general, you know, our life is pretty good over here in the US at least. So I don't know, I might be interpreting this song incorrectly. And, you know, if you have some thoughts on this song that are different, please comment and tell me about them. I'd love to hear it. It just made me think of that. But anyway, that's all I really have to talk about with this song. So we're gonna skip to track number 13, which is a really cool song. I'm excited to talk about it. So let's check it out.
This is how they take. Well, I can't count how many times I've been outdone by nihilism. Join the mods that splits an open heart into a schism. I cower at the thought of other people's expectations, and yet still hand over mine to them.
Yeah, so that's the last track, Tenderness, which I think it's probably fair to say, at least musically, like sonically speaking, this is the best song on the album. I just think it sounds so wonderful. The recording is amazing. But the lyrics I like, I thought they were pretty interesting because it sounds like this character is joining some sort of tribe, so to speak. By tribe, I just mean like a movement. You know, maybe it's the woke movement or some other kind of movement. But as he joins this movement, he suddenly succumbed to certain expectations. So like maybe, you know, because he says that his open heart is now like something about a schism. I forgot what he says exactly, but basically what he means is that he used to be a lot more open about things, but now that he's in this specific movement, he's unable to have certain thoughts or opinions, or else he's going to be, you know, tossed out of whatever movement it is. So like, for example, let's say you really like a musician, you love their work, but then you read in the paper or a website somewhere that like, oh, this guy was a sexual predator, or this guy did something really illegal or something. So now there's this expectation within your group of like, well, you can't listen to this band anymore. You know, this guy is terrible. Like, how can you support this guy by listening to them? Like, did you not hear what they did? So like that's kind of one way I interpret what he means. Again, I could be wrong, but just a great song, just a really good single. Great way to close the album. It just makes me want to listen to the whole thing again, if I'm being honest. But let's have some final thoughts on Wide Awake. Again, just a really creative, really funky punk album. It's got some great messages, some great lyrics. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a 10 for me, just in the sense of like every song is good. There's some great songs. The lyrics are wonderful. There's a consistent message. And I mean, let's be honest, this cover's awesome. But anyway, so I hope you like it. You know, again, if you didn't like it, or if you have some other thoughts, please feel free to comment down below. I love reading them and hearing your opinions. But yeah, this is Parquet Court's Wide Awake. Check it out. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. It would really help out. I'm looking forward to making more videos for you guys. But yeah, that's all I have to say about it. So have a good one.